Hello Likers, welcome back to our channel. It's me, your fave, your one and only, your baby girl Malaika. So Likers, today we are doing the critical review of Mr. Aloy's series When Marriage Becomes a Nightmare, episode 38. It starts with Jonathan, after the confrontation between Debbie and Benny, where Jonathan came in and the slapotology went on. Benny decided to leave because she was angry. She was angry that Jonathan slapped her, and Jonathan, being a weakly and always being a people's pleaser, he had to beg Debbie not to go, trying to please her, trying to make her understand that, like trying to give her reasons for slapping her. Like the insult that she insulted you in front of your daughter was not enough. So he was trying to make Debbie understand that it was too much. Already his daughter does not think of him as a worthy father, and he never wanted his daughter to see him as less of a man, and all the rest, because to him it was out like Debbie insulted him and ridiculed him, so Debbie should just calm down so that they could talk like two adults. So, and he's begging, and he always has to form this is me, oh, Big Joe, Big Joe. And Debbie just made him understand that, guy, you're broke, you're not, there's no Big Joe in your name, is Small Joe. So the next scene shows Jonathan and Debbie. Jonathan is still trying to pacify Debbie. He's begging, trying to make Debbie understand that, guy, look, yes, I know I effed up by smacking you and all the rest, but calm down. Calm down, because already I'm being seen as a loser of a husband. I don't want to be a loser in the eyes of my daughter as a father. But Debbie wants to twist the matter around. Remember, Debbie and Emeka has an agenda. And they'll do everything humanly possible to make Jonathan buy that agenda that they have, to make him. So now Debbie is in a mission. Her mission, she's on a mission, and her mission consists, of trying to make Jonathan understand that the reason why these things are happening, is because of his wife Clara. It's simply because Clara has that restaurant, and the reason why his daughter would raise her hands against him is simply because Clara is encouraging her. And like, as you people know very well, that Clara dislikes anything that her daughter would do against her father. But Debbie is making Jonathan to understand that Clara is in support of their daughter's, bad behavior. So to her, the best thing that Jonathan could do is to clip Clara's wings. And by clipping Clara's wings, it would automatically clip Debbie's wings. And Jonathan is trying to understand how do I come into this? How do I do that? And Debbie made it very simple, sabotage her business. Because what is giving her the audacity to speak to you like that is the fact that she, has that restaurant running. That once that restaurant stops running, eventually she will respect herself, and she'll know that there are certain things that she cannot do. So if you can keep her out of the restaurant, I promise you that your respect will come back. Because even to run back to her ex-Hank, she will not be able to go back to him, because he will not want to support a dying business. He will not want to support a woman's business that he keeps supporting and she keeps failing. So to them now, then Jonathan is getting interesting. Like, to Jonathan's story, the story is getting interesting. Jonathan wanted to know more how he can do, because if there's one thing, on Jonathan's mind, he doesn't want to be a loser that he is already. He's the only one who is not convinced that he is a loser. He doesn't want people to see him like that. He always wants people to see him like this Big Joe, Big Joe, Big Joe. So that story sounds convincing to him. And that story, it makes him realize that, guy, there's a probability, that I can regain my steez as a man. You understand? Because now they are making him understand that if you can clip her wings, your daughter, because your daughter have never slapped you before, but your daughter slapped you because of your wife. So the next scene shows Clara, who has rushed, Benny, who has rushed to her mother Clara to complain about the incident that took place at home. Because Benny always complains to her mother whenever something happens. And her mother already was being skeptical, but she told her mother the truth. She made Clara to understand that it was Debbie who started, and they had a fight. Debbie slapped her and she slapped Debbie back. But what made her angry was the fact that her father came in. Instead of her father trying to find out what happened, her father just smacked her, and out of annoyance she smacked her dad too, and her mother was not here for it. We know that if there's one thing about Clara, is the discipline on her daughter. Clara does not want to have a loser of a daughter. Clara does not want her daughter to be the talk of the town. No, Clara is not here for it. Clara is a very strict mother. And Clara did not see anything, like she didn't really emphasize on the fact that Benny slapped Debbie. Why? Because already Clara is having her suspicions, because to her, Debbie is not really that friend, that she's thinking. She's beginning to suspect Debbie. She's beginning to suspect like there's some fishy things going on, that has to do with Debbie. So Clara, she didn't really find it a problem. But once she heard that Benny smacked her dad, that was what made Clara to go gaga. And Clara gave her 2 dirty slaps, because you are a child. And which is true, no matter what your father did, even if your father is a drunkard, even if your father is a buyer, you can never disrespect him, because that is not how we were raised as Africans, and that's not how it's supposed to be, because the Bible forbids that. It's a taboo. You're looking for backlash. It's an abomination to raise your hand against your parents. It is wrong even to raise your hand against people that are older than you, older siblings. It is wrong. So Clara just went gaga. I think I applaud Clara for that, because she's a no-nonsense mother. One thing Clara will not accept is to let her daughter become wayward. One thing Clara will not accept is to let Debbie do whatever it is that Debbie feels like she has the right to do. So Clara was so pissed, because why would Benny even think that Benny could just wake up and raise her hand against her father? But kids now, Benny will automatically feel like her mother is taking side, And at this point, one thing about Clara has never taken side. Clara stands on the truth. But this time, she had to take side. She automatically picks side. She told Debbie that, yes, I am picking side this time around. I pick side with your father. Because as a child, you had no right. And you have no right to raise your hand against your dad. It's not happening. Not on my watch. My daughter will never raise her hand against her father. It's not happening. And Benita was pissed, because she wants her mother to, when you want your mother to support you, but your mother is not here for it. Her mother is not ready to support her, and her mother had to kick her out of her restaurant. Yes, because to her, she was being insolent, and her mother asked her to go and apologize to her dad, because no child is supposed to do that, and she did well. But unfortunately, what can you do? This generation, this Indomie generation, my people, it's not easy. Kids, they want their parents to respect their rights. You'll be living under somebody's roof, but you want that person to respect your right. So Clara decided to call Debbie, because she wanted Debbie to come so that she could find out what is going on. So she was very peaceful, very, like cool-minded when she called Debbie, as usual when she usually calls her. So the next thing shows Debbie, who came to Clara's restaurant, not knowing that Benny has been there already. Debbie sat down, and Clara was asking, like, Clara just went straight to the point. So you went to my house, and she could not even hesitate to start running her mouth like a broken tap, like as if she had diarrhea of the mouth, talking nonsense, talking how all sorts of things, how Benny is an insolent child. How can you call a child insolent in the presence of her mother? Which means automatically you're insulting the mother, because that's the woman who raised that child. How that child is this, is that, is. And Clara, as a mother, Clara has already been having her suspicions. She has been very suspicious of Debbie lately. She's been having her suspicion against Debbie, So she could not take it, and she had to give her 2 dirty slaps. And to her, Debbie, she was asking Debbie, that is my home. Because to her it's more like, it is my home, you are my friend. Why would you go to my house in my absence? That, like us, it doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense why your friend will go to your house in your absence. Why? For you to go to that house in their absence, it means that there's something you're looking for in that house. So what are you looking for there? It's crazy. It is crazy, like us. So Clara, sorry, Debbie was trying to make a point. There was no point for you to make, because going to your friend's house in her absence makes no sense. In as much as to her, she's going there because she wants to console Benny, she wants to sympathize with her, console her on whatever. How can you go to console a child that you dislike? Because Clara was very blunt. Clara told her, you cannot go to my house, you're not allowed to go to my house. Understand? You don't like my child. So I don't understand how you want to go and console, sympathize with my child based on what? Yeah, she wanted to understand. Why would you want to do that? It makes no sense. It makes no. And Clara, I just love this woman. She'll go straight to the point. The problem with that narcissist thing, because Debbie is a narcissist, is that she thinks that she'll win all the time. She has always known that Clara is gullible. She will believe whatever you tell her. So she always wants to apply that tactic, because she was making it sound like Debbie attacked her. But she forgets that woman raised that child. Debbie is not that type of a person. Pardon, Benny. Benny is not that type of a person. Benny does not attack people. Benny protects herself. Yes, her mouth, she has a very sharp tongue, no doubt. But she will only tell you what is necessary. And Clara warned her never to go to her house again. And made her understand that if she finds out that Debbie has anything to do with what is happening to her daughter and her family, she will redesign her face. But Debbie now, she wants to show herself. She wants to make Clara feel like that home is not your home because you are no longer there. But she forgets that Clara's daughter is there, which means it is her house. Clara is the one paying that house. And Clara did not hesitate to remind her that so long as my daughter is in that house, that is my home. That is my home. So long as my daughter is there. So I don't care about what you're saying. I don't care about what you do. But I want you to stay away from it. Yes. And now I want to see how Debbie, will want to go to that house, because Clara introduced Debbie to her husband. So does that mean that now Debbie is more friends with Jonathan than Clara? And Clara just had to throw her out of her restaurant here, because to her it was just becoming too much. She is not a friend, she is a foe. Yeah, she is not a friend. And I'm glad that Clara is finally seeing her for what she is. So the next thing shows Debbie, who got so angry when she was thrown out of the restaurant, and she promised her and brimstone as usual. To her, she's going now. She has more ammunition on how and why she should destroy Clara, because Clara is being so much. So when you discover things that you're not supposed to discover, it tips them off and it makes them very angry. So she's angry because of that. The next thing shows Jonathan and Kenny that are discussing at the rooftop of his building. So Jonathan is talking about realizing that you need connection to work in this country. It's true that it's easier with connection, but there are people that genuinely have their jobs without having anybody, without connection. By God's grace, they get jobs. But Jonathan, is that type of person that once he makes up his mind, once he thinks of something, it is that thing. It is like that. It has to be like that. There's nothing you can tell him. So Kenny is trying to make him understand that yes, it's true, but you should know that people work hard. So Kenny tried to advise him like, guy, you have a car, you understand? Why don't you sell off that car, buy a smaller one to be running public transport, even airport taxi, which is a good idea. Like us, I cannot lie to you. Only a friend who loves you, who wants you to be making your own money rather than begging. But to him, it's more like an insult. There's anything that will come between Jonathan and his teas, please don't tell him. Jonathan was so angry because to him, what about his teas? What teas? Do you eat teas? You are there in your house starving. You cannot even afford 2 square meal a day. You're talking about steez. You're asking, and this is what is buying us today, most of us, with like, we are always thinking about what would people say? What would people say? But you realize that when you're hungry, when you go and knock on somebody's door to be like, guy, I'm hungry, help, they will insult you. But to do something that will put food on your table, you're talking about steez. What will people say? People know you, like, because to him, he'll be doing transport, and those small girls in Lagos, they'll be talking anyhow to him. Those small girls in Lagos have money more than you. Yes, they are better off than you. And the truth is, money has no gender or color. What you do to make money is what matters. And the way you take care of your family, that's what matters. Now, why can't you say, what do people say when your family start going hungry, or when you lose your accommodation? Why can't you talk about that? This is what is buying us today. We turn out to please people and displease our own selves. You don't want your friend to give you good advice to sell your car, because of steez. A car that you cannot even fuel, you cannot put fuel inside the tank. But I love Kenny, because Kenny is that man that will tell you the truth. He doesn't care, and he made it very clear that Jonathan should never call him to ask for petty, because he will call it petty money, petty cash. You should not call him for that. Yes, because if you want to do steez, go to your steez and look for food. Stop calling people. Because what is the essence of you not wanting to do something to put food on your table, but you want to be calling somebody else, that is struggling to put food on his table, and you're talking about steez when you cannot even afford to put fuel on inside your car? What are you keeping the car there for? What are you using the Lexus for when you cannot fuel it? So the next thing shows Teresita and Benny that are watching TV, and they heard the way the door opened, and Jonathan was singing. He came in, he was happy, he was excited, because apparently he applied for a job, and they've given him the job. He has gotten the job, and the salary is really good. So he was happy. They were happy with him and all the rest. Even his daughter congratulated him in a very cold way, but the most important thing to him is that he was congratulated. He was happy. Teresa was happy for him and all the rest, and he couldn't wait. He was like, he can't wait to take care of his family, especially his daughter. It's good because Jonathan wants to make his family happy. The problem is that it's the way he goes about it, and the fact that he only wants to do white collar job. What happens to you trying to do your own business? What happens to you trying to build something, for yourself? Because I can't lie to you people. Yes, it's good to work to people, especially if you don't have something to start up with, But once you have something to start up with, start up something. Yes, start up your own small petty business. That business will grow. That energy that you want to use to grow another person's business, grow your own. It's true, it's not easy to start, but we should all, because the idea that Kenny gave to Jonathan, that was a brilliant idea, to sell the big car and to buy a small car that you could use for example, you sell the Lexus and buy like Toyota. Toyota are not expensive to fix. Lexus is expensive to fix. Toyota, so you buy like a Toyota Camry or a GLX, a Toyota Corolla, you just buy, or you buy even a Venza. You use it for business. You understand? It will help you put food on your table. But no, like as we are going to end here, like this is the thing about Jonathan: pride, and even if, let's assume that he has the job, for how long is he going to keep it? Because you will not want to submit to your superior. He doesn't respect hierarchy, because he will go, I am Big Joe. He will see a small boy of maybe 25-30 years that he's older than, and you expect the boy to call him sir instead of him calling the boy sir. And how can he keep a job? That's the problem. That's why it's better for him to look for to do his own business. So like I said, please, marriage is not the end of it, it doesn't take anyone to heaven. People should be careful of who they are getting married to. Please, so do not marry your enemy, because it is worse. The worst thing that could happen to you is to marry your enemy. On this note, I'll have to say bye, guys. Take care of yourself.